Crown Heights torn by violence.
Someone with a gun is on top of a building firing at will.
3 nights of violence in Crown Heights.
The worst anti-Semitic race riot in American history happened in 1991 in the Crown Heights neighborhood of Brooklyn, New York.
A young Hasidic man was stabbed to death.
Black protesters chanting Heil Hitler.
A Hasidic man hit by a brick on Eastern Parkway.
Why did it happen? And why did it go unchecked for 3 days?
It is very dangerous out here tonight.
Crown Heights is a neighborhood with an unusual history.
At a certain point, Crown Heights, which had been a Jewish neighborhood, changed. Many African Americans moved in. Most of the Jews left. But one group of Jews who didn't leave Crown Heights were the Chabad Lubavitch.
Chabad Lubavitch is a sect of Orthodox Hasidic Jews. Their grand rabbi, their Rebbe, Menachem Mendel Schneerson, an internationally revered religious leader who fled the Holocaust, decided in the 1960s that Chabad would not leave Crown Heights.
And the Rebbe said, no, we're here to stay. These are our neighbors. We will get along. We'll work things out.
By the 1980s, Crown Heights had become unsafe.
There is not a lady that I know that lived in 1980s in Crown Heights that did not have the experience of a black man coming over to them, grabbing their chain, their gold chain, and just ripped it off them thing. It happened to my wife, it happened to my sisters.
There was tension in that precinct for a long time. Certainly when I was the precinct commander, someone tried to burn down 770 Eastern Parkway, which is the Lubavitch headquarters. It just didn't ignite. And 2 police officers from an adjoining precinct saw him do it and arrested him.
By 1991, tensions between blacks and Jews were mounting.
August 1991, the major New York City news story was about black anti-Semitism.
We are now preparing the 10 volumes dealing with the Jewish relationship with the black community in reference to slavery, so we can put it in the school system.
The chair of Black Studies at City College of New York, Professor Leonard Jeffries, actually the uncle of Hakeem Jeffries in politics right now. He had accused Jews of running the slave trade, of using Hollywood to destroy the black image, of every sort of sin imaginable against blacks. It was Jews. He also had all sorts of ideas about whites being ice people because of something to do with melanin, blacks as sun people. It got really crazy.
In Crown Heights, some black leaders accused the Jews of getting preferential treatment from the city.
There is a double standard, the standard in which the Police Act treat people differently, and there's a double standard with respect to services, how services are rendered, what people receive, goods and services in this community.
This tension had been building, and on top of that, it was the summer. It was a hot summer of 1991. So it was a powder keg. What happened on that night in August 1991 was someone lit a match and the place exploded.
That Monday, Rabbi Schneerson returned from his monthly visit to the graves of his wife and his predecessor. His 3-car motorcade traveled west on President Street, led by a police car with sirens and lights, followed by Schneerson's car, and finally, a Mercury Grand Marquis station wagon, driven by Yosef Lifsh with 3 other assistants. At 8:20 p.m., the first two cars crossed Utica Avenue. The station wagon ran either a yellow light or a red light, then crashed into a Chevy Malibu, careened across the street, and pinned 7-year-old cousins Gavin and Angela Cato, children of Guyanese immigrants. Gavin would die in the hospital. Angela would survive. Mark Hoppy was one of the first police officers on the scene.
We observed a large crowd around that station wagon. There was a Hasidic male. I assumed he was the driver of the station wagon, and he was trying to protect himself from people throwing blows at him. A Hatzola ambulance from the Hasidic community had showed up almost at the same time, and within a minute or two, that ambulance had left. Moments later, city ambulances came and aided the child, and then removed the child and left the scene.
Hatzalah is a private ambulance service run by Chabad Lubavitch. Since their ambulance left first, rumor quickly spread that they refused to help the young black children. The reality was different.
I heard that Officer Capace told the Hasidic man and the ambulance crew to get the heck out of here, before they kill him. And was it a smart decision? 20/20 hindsight says no, but he probably saved his life.
More rumors spread. The driver was drunk. He hit the kids on purpose.
Since it was an accident investigation, the police had cordoned off the area with crime scene tape. And at that point, Mr. Price went underneath that frozen area and began to incite the crowd with his chants of, we're not going to take this anymore. Just a bunch of angry epithets towards the crowd.
Were they anti-Semitic?
Yes, they were.
Charles Price goaded the crowd into action.
Charles Price, petty thief, heroin addict, he was saying, the Jews always do this. The Jews get away with everything. There's no justice. They're killing our kids. Are we gonna let this happen? Building and building. Eventually, he made his move. He says, I'm going to the Jew neighborhood. Who's with me?
At 11:15 that night, Yankel Rosenbaum, a 29-year-old Australian doctoral student who was an Orthodox Jew, walked north on Brooklyn Avenue. When he crossed President Street, he ran into Charles Price and a group of 10 to 20 young black men, including Lemrick Nelson, who had a knife.
Price is heard yelling out by witnesses, there's one, let's get him. Get the Jew, others yell. They set on him, attack him. He is stabbed 4 times in the back, suffers a fractured skull, and he would die of his wounds in the hospital.
The rioting continued into the night.
The next day, I'm in New York, and I get a call from Gavin Cato's father. And he said he would love to have me represent them because I had done Bensonhurst, I had done Howard Beach, and other cases.
Had not the residents been given preferential treatment, the car would not have been going through the red light and murdered his nephew and hurt his daughter in the first place.
That little boy and the little girl, somebody got to pay for that.
Yeah.
We do a lot of talk. We ain't talking no more.
No more.
Right?
No
All right?
more. Action.
Okay.
You've got to have these eruptions, violence, in order to get people's attention.
Reverend Al Sharpton and Alton Maddox are demanding the arrest of the Hasidic driver. They say if he is not arrested, they will hunt him down.
We are going to organize a patrol to go into Crown Heights or wherever he is and bring him out.
Stop equating a car accident with a murder. This guy was stabbed. This guy was hit accidentally.
I left, came back the next day, and called for a peaceful march. Some of the nationalists got behind us and had these signs condemning the whole thing. And of course, the right-wing media said that I had an anti-white march. These guys were on the signs. We're trying to calm everybody down.
Police talked with activist Al Sharpton and Alton Maddox.
Nobody's going to ask this crowd to relax under these circumstances.
But that doesn't help anything.
Well, I don't care what it helps.
Some of the people in your marches had these anti-Semitic signs, not to say that you endorsed them.
Somebody comes at the edge of my march with a sign. Number one, not only do they represent us, I'm at the front of I don't even know they're behind me with a sign.
Black protesters chanting Heil Hitler stormed the Lubavitcher headquarters.
There was some anti-Semitic chants going on. There was some hatred going on. And I think there were those that exploited what happened and came in that may not have even been from Crown Heights.
Who were the leaders of this sort of nationalist, more violent group?
I mean, I'll leave that for your research. Okay. I do not want to get into that. Many of them are deceased, by the way.
I saw a group of maybe 500 angry blacks marching down Eastern Parkway, throwing bottles and rocks. And I saw one man near me hit in the face with a rock. I heard people shouting, Heil Hitler, and Hitler didn't do the job. I wasn't writing my own stories the first few days. I was filing to what we used to call a rewrite man. And then I would pick up the paper the next morning and I would see a story that said blacks and Jews fought on the streets of Crown Heights yesterday. And I ran to a payphone, I called my editor and I said, we're getting this story wrong. I don't see anything like that going on. I said, you're in a newsroom, I'm on the street, I see what's happening. And I said, we have to change this story.
The New York Times reported it as, two sides fight each other. Jews and blacks fight in Crown Heights.
When you say those words to me, that it's two sides fighting against each other, it hurts me in my inner kishkis, as we say. It hurts me to the core. This was not a fight of two gangs fighting against each other. This was people attacking the Jewish people.
I would tell the Hasidic Jewish community that they're gonna have to come down and deal with an equal footing in that community, or they better get some moving vans.
Every time there's complaints here, there is nothing done. Nobody here threw the first 100 stones. I know.
There was a lot of standing around, just passing time, a lot of show of force, but not force. I didn't see a lot of arrests. I didn't see anything like that.
And why do you think that was?
I just heard rumors from various other cops that the word came down from higher ups that, I can't quote this, but that the mayor had said, let them vent. And it could have been a rumor, but that's what everybody was going with.
What does that mean, let them just vent? Breaking windows is venting, burning police cars is venting, turning over police cars is venting, stabbing somebody is venting.
Now, the state report found no evidence of that order. And perhaps it never happened.
In the early hours of this crisis, had you ordered the police not to make arrests of protesters?
That's not true.
I think the reality is even more damning. He gave no orders at all for those days, no instructions at all. He looked the other way when a riot was happening against a small, vulnerable Jewish community.
We all want justice, and we will have justice. We will have justice, but we will not get it through violence.
Mayor Dinkins came to Crown Heights Wednesday.
I want you to listen to me. I want you to listen to me.
He walks out, tries to speak to a crowd that had gathered. He himself is attacked, pelted with bottles. He calls out to the crowd, "Will you listen to me?" They say, "No."
And there were those in the crowd who were throwing bottles. 2 bottles landed very close to me. And I mean very close. Oh, yeah, sorry. And now, whose interest is that? I mean, is it in the interest of some coward out in the crowd throwing a bottle to do harm to the mayor?
Now, I was in my office on Wednesday afternoon, and I heard on the radio, Car 1, which is what they call a police commissioner car at the time, calling a 1013. What's a 1013? Assist a police officer who needs assistance. Lee Brown, the police commissioner, had pulled up to a school where they were rushed by a crowd and put them at risk. So I jumped in my car and I went out to Crown Heights. I went into the building and I approached them. I could see they were both upset. I went to him and said, "You want me to get involved in this?" Contrary to his previous order. So he said yes.
Lawlessness cannot and will not be tolerated. Our people are meeting right now, and I'll be joining them, developing the necessary strategies to make sure that lawlessness will not continue.
And that's what it took for the situation to change. The mayor and the police commissioner had to personally be attacked for it to get through to them that the situation was truly out of control and maybe they should do something.
What happened is we devised a plan, and we ordered 50 horses in that day, mounted with police officers. And we had these patrol wagons, these box-like trucks, and we used them to block off the streets. We wanted to make arrests.
Close this off, fellas! I want the sidewalk frozen!
We did it quickly that afternoon, that evening. Well over 100 arrests were made, and it ended. That was it.
It was almost as if someone had flipped a switch and things were safe again. The looting had stopped. A lot of the violence had stopped.
That was a real moment for Jews in Crown Heights. That actually someone could get stabbed on the streets of Crown Heights for one reason only, the reason of being a Jew.
This was the worst anti-Semitic incident that I had seen. I had never seen Jews in danger and in peril the way they were that summer.
As an American, the system simply failed us.
His Honor, the Mayor, David Dinkins.
Barbra Streisand, Stevie Wonder, President Clinton, and an army of surrogates have pulled out all the stops on behalf of New York's incumbent mayor, David Dinkins.
In the '93 election, Dinkins lost 3% of the Jewish vote. That's it. Where he really lost votes was among non-Jewish New Yorkers, outer borough types. People who didn't think of it as a Jewish, not Jewish thing, they, looked at it as the mayor let the rioters get away with it. He let this happen. It took that riot directed at Hasidic Jews for people to say, enough with this, and elect someone who would do something about it.
I'll place a much greater emphasis on stricter enforcement of the law to reverse the growing trend of ever-increasing tolerance for lawless behavior.
When people talk about the history of New York City, the great crime increase from the late 60s to the early 1990s, they say all the time, it changed with Rudy Giuliani. I would tell them it changed with the Crown Heights riot.
Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us!
Now in New York City, around the country, even around the world, we are experiencing a new wave of anti-Semitism. On August 10th, 2024, a Chabad Lubavitch man was stabbed on the streets of Crown Heights by a man shouting, "Free Palestine, and do you want to die?" Have we learned the lessons of the Crown Heights riot?